Hi, welcome to Pin Zone. I'm Fred Pin, and today I'm going to make an aluminium platform roof rack for my Subaru Forester. I've purchased some rectangular and some channel aluminium for my roof rack, and I've had it roughly cut to size by the supplier, and that's just mainly for transport convenience. I'm going to cut it down to size. It's going to be roughly about 1200 by 1100. That's just roughly, and I'll just fine tune it as I go and just show you the process. But the first process is to cut them down to size. The reason I'm making my own is because they're so expensive, and you can purchase some cheaper aluminium platform racks, but they tend to be a bit lightweight and not necessarily having the support that I wanted. So I'm making this myself with the aluminium rectangle and channel. I think it'll cost me around about $150 all up, and when I've priced some of the name brands, they're up around the $900 to $1,200 mark. And you know, again, I'm trying to do everything on a budget, keep everything economical so that my dollar goes further. And that's basically my principle and philosophy. I don't want to have a car that's worth $6,000 and all these accessories that are worth, $20,000. So it just doesn't add up for me. So let's get cutting. Measure once, cut twice. I've swapped out my timber cutting blade and I've put in an aluminium cutting blade. This one has been used before, so I'm hoping it's still got a pretty good edge and we can get through all the sections I've got to cut up. And it's going to be a bit noisy, so I'm going to wear these. And I've already got my glasses, so that covers that part. Let's do it! Okay, I'm just deburring the cut ends using a little deburring tool. This is great for round tube, but it also works pretty well with straight edges, especially aluminium, fairly soft. Pass it around, and it does a pretty good job of taking off those sharp edges. Also works on the outside. I'm going to cut miters on the two outer aluminium sections, so that just gives it a bit of a softer appearance and takes away that edge. It'll be covered up with the aluminium channel anyway, so let's do it. Next process is to cut some miters into the aluminium channel so I can bend it and shape it around the miters on the rectangular sections. Now that the miters are cut out, I'm just going to bend these over. This gives me a 45-degree angle. Like so. That's on both ends. I'm going to fasten the channel to the rectangular section Just measuring in at 12mm. About the centre point there, then I'll place 2 more fasteners there. For this process I'll use some self-drilling screws. I've checked these square. So I'm happy with that. Check the square again. It's good. I've had a change of plans. I'm going to use rivets. I've got a lot more rivets than I do self-drilling screws. Just means a little bit more labour intensive, but that's okay. We've got time. As long as my rivet gun holds out. Well, as long as I hold out. Only 6,432 to go. Just out of interest, if you're interested, I've snapped off the end of the Phillips driver in there and I can't get that out, so I shall leave that to later, or maybe I'll just even leave that in and it can be the odd one out. That can be a quiz question, spot the difference or not. So that's how we're going to continue, making sure everything's square. There'll be a 10mm gap between these two, so there'll be pairs of these, etc. And I'll continue. I'm just continuing to make sure the rectangular sections are square to the channel as I move along. And I've reverted to my 240 volt drill because it's got a better speed for the size drill bit. And I'm using aluminium rivets with a manual type rivet gun. Would have been nice to have a pneumatic rivet gun, but I don't have one or access to one. Again, I'll just put the 10mm spacer in so I can get the correct spacing between the rectangular sections, making sure there's no schwarf in there. I've moved over to the opposite end where I now have to fit the bent channel and of course try and get them all fed in at the same time. I'm just utilising some ratchet tie down straps to pull it all together while I work out the spacing of the opposite end. On the underside of the roof rack I'm going to put these channels. The channel size is the same as what's on each end of the platform rack. It's all aluminium again, trying to keep the weight down. I'm pretty sure this rack is rated higher than the bar racks I'm putting it on top of on my car. But it gives me a good platform to load gear and equipment. Might even have my spare wheel on top of this later, as I utilise that spare wheel well for possibly a second battery. That's the finished roof rack, unpainted of course. I just have to give it a wipe down with some degreaser. I've just trimmed some of the channel off the corners, did a bit of grinding. Alright, time for some degreasing, cleaning of the aluminium. I'm ready to paint the roof rack now. I've got it set up on some bricks just to lift it off the ground. I've got a disposable plastic tarp on the ground. I've got my Dupli-Color bed armour. It's a do-it-yourself bed lining spray. I'm hoping this gives a fairly tough, durable finish to the roof rack, so as I put items on and off over the years, that it'll wear reasonably well. And possibly in the future I just need to touch it up. If it's good enough for ute bed liners, do-it-yourself relining, I'm sure it's going to be fine for a roof rack. Do it yourself, DIY. That's what this YouTube channel is about. Do it yourself. Choo. Oh dear. Alright, I've got a few blobs coming out, so I better wipe that up. The good thing about drying times is time for a coffee, time for a biscuit. As you can see, I've done a lot of painting in my time, a lot of drying time, a lot of waiting, a lot of coffees and biscuits. Oh well, someone's got to do it. Just 3 more coats to go. I better buy another packet of biscuits. That's the first coat. A little bit patchy, but they did say put light coats. Unfortunately, there's a few patches that are a bit heavy. The nozzle's not that accurate, not that precise, so it does come out a bit spluttering. But time for the second coat. That is the completed roof rack with bed armour spray. The spray coat could have been a bit better, but I'm keeping some in reserve for touch-ups. So all that is left is to install on the roof racks. My plan is to use these bolts in the T-slot, but I'll have to grind them to suit. I've just drilled a hole in a piece of timber to hold the bolt, That way I can do some grinding on it without actually having to hold it myself. Okay, there's the 4 T-bolts I've made up, and I've just tried them out on the roof rack, on the roof bars, and they seem to fit the T-slots perfectly. And that's how the bolts will insert into the T-slot. I just have to cut some of the rubber that's inserted in the crossbars and line them up with the slot in the platform rack. I'm also going to make up some rubber buffers that go under between the platform rack and the crossbar, because the crossbar actually curves slightly. You might be able to see how the crossbar curves slightly. Right, let's make some rubber washers. Rubber washer, rubber spacer, whatever you want to call it. Oh, thing fell out. Okay, that's one. I'll just have to make the hole bigger with a hole punch. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to punch out a larger hole to take the 10mm bolt that I've got for the fastening the roof rack. So this is just a wad punch, hole punch, making it a few mil bigger than the required size. There you go. See that? Compare that. I'm just measuring the distance between the 2 slots in the rack so I can line up the bolts that will come through. I've put some large mudguard washers or flat washers. Don't have any lock washers or spring washers at the moment, so I'm just going to put this lifting eye on there, and that could become a tie down for straps and ropes. And I'll just tighten that up. I don't want to over tighten. There's a bit of compression there with the rubber, and I'll end up putting another mounting bolt in the center. So the other thing I wanted to do was install my awning that I was given by my brother. This one end, I'll tighten that up in a minute. Good, clears the back of the tailgate. Just double check this tightness. Okay, it's tight. Just check the other fasteners that are there. Tight, and that's tight, so it's all secure. Platform rack and the awning are all secure.